Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm actually going back to my childhood roots. Back when I was a kid, I've loved dinosaurs. Practically my entire childhood was made up of dinosaurs, consisting of shows like Dinosaur Train, Jurassic Park, and Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Huh, I guess that's why I love that season so much. Well, anyway, we all have those dinosaurs that we always have a soft spot for, and today I want to go over some of mine. But first, let's lay down some ground rules. A. We're only going to be looking at dinosaurs, meaning those that are actually classified as dinosaurs. No pterosaurs or plesiosaurs, so sorry for everyone who loves those. 2. There won't be any cutoff date for the dinosaurs. I'm going to be looking at all three eras, the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous time periods. And D. Some of these may be dinosaurs you haven't heard of, but I will be going into some facts about them as well, just to keep everyone in the know. So let's stop wasting time and get into my top 10 dinosaurs.
Tunnel approaching!
Number 10. Brachiosaurus. Okay, so we're pretty much starting the list with one that I think everybody knows at least something about. With its name translating to arm lizard, Brachiosaurus lived during the late Jurassic period, from 161.2 to 145 million years ago. Like other sauropods, they were herbivores and ate leaves from the tall trees, utilizing their long necks to get food. What's interesting about Brachiosaurus in comparison to other sauropods, though, was that it kept its neck nearly straight, while others kept theirs near parallel to the earth, making Brachiosaurus look more like a giraffe. Another interesting difference was that Brachiosaurus had a crest on its head, possible to help it make some noise to communicate. At 28 tons heavy, 85 feet in length from head to tail, and standing up to 40 feet tall, which is almost the same size as a 4-story building, Brachiosaurus likely had to eat upwards of 400 kilograms, or 880 pounds, of food per day. But what's most fascinating to me are their legs. Their front legs are longer than their back legs, hence the name of arm lizard. The theory is that they used these legs to get higher altitude to the top of trees, though some paleontologists disagree with how it did so in Jurassic Park. They also traveled in herds and were one of the many types of nomadic herbivorous dinosaurs. It was thanks to their size that they were not hunted as often as other dinosaurs. They were also originally believed to have lived underwater, as scientists thought it was too heavy to support itself on land and thought the holes in its head crest were its nostrils. Also, Brachiosaurus served as the basis for both Titanus and the Brachiozord in Power Rangers. That's pretty cool in my opinion. Number 9. Coelophysis. Told you there would be some dinosaurs you haven't heard of on this list. Living during the late Triassic period from 225 to 190 million years ago, Coelophysis was one of the first dinosaurs to appear on Earth. With a name translating to hollow form, it was a carnivore, and a very agile one at that. During the Triassic, it was the heyday of reptiles, and dinosaurs were just starting out. Coelophysis itself is only 4 feet tall and 2 to 3 meters long, upwards of 10 feet, with an estimated 33 to 44 pounds. Very small when compared to other more well-known dinosaurs. Yeah, there's probably a reason why you've never heard of this one before. They also had very small diets, emphasis on the word small, eating either bugs, small mammals, or infant crocs. Not that kind, though. Now, this wasn't a dinosaur I loved as a kid. In fact, this was actually something I learned more about when doing research on dinosaurs. But I was very interested in Coelophysis because it was possibly the most common dinosaur in the Triassic. And one more interesting thing that I liked learning about was that these small creatures were very fast thanks to a 90-degree angle from their body to their legs, with a lot of muscles on their upper thigh. Okay, so not exactly top 10 worthy, but this was very interesting to learn about. And I'm glad to always learn more. Number 8. Spinosaurus. Quite possibly the most interesting looking dinosaur in history, Spinosaurus lived during the late Cretaceous period around 99 to 93.5 million years ago. You may have guessed it, but with a name meaning spine lizard, this was a carnivorous dinosaur that was both land and sea-based, though it is more likely to have preferred the shallow waters of the sea. And at almost 15 meters and upwards of 22 tons, this guy was the largest carnivorous dinosaur in history. Its fossils were first discovered in 1912 in Egypt, but most of the original remains were destroyed during World War I. And, with most of these already being described, this is what brought the original theories of how it looked, which led to the look in Jurassic Park 3. However, while this is a cool design and pretty intimidating, it's not 100% accurate. Back then, practically everyone thought that a sail on a dinosaur would take a similar look to that of Dimetrodon, which has no relation, to be honest. Instead, the sail on Spinosaurus had a more wavy appearance and, if you couldn't guess, was designed for it to be more agile in the water. It's also of note that its hind legs were also more adept at sea life and swimming. And, most interesting for me, the Spinosaurus also had a fin-like tail, making this thing look like a strange dinosaur-fish combination. Something like out of a mad scientist. And because of its affinity and better skills in the water, its diet mostly consisted of fish, like these Onchopristes, which also lived in Egypt with Spinosaurus during the Cretaceous period. When going on the hunt in the water, the nostrils of a Spinosaurus were a lot higher than other dinosaurs, allowing it to keep its mouth underwater longer and catch fish easier. It's also worth noting that Spinosaurus likely had holes and sinuses at the end of its snout, allowing it to sense its prey underwater without having to go underwater itself, as a sort of echolocation, as revealed in a 2008 study. Man, this thing just keeps getting creepier and creepier. And for anyone who is still upset about the controversial battle between the T-Rex and Spinosaurus in Jurassic Park 3,
one dinosaur you probably can't do that to, it's him. I refuse on principle to answer the question who would win in a fight between, because I think it is the most trite, boring and uninteresting thing that one could possibly say about dinosaurs, even in fiction. But it's T-Rex.
Number 7. Dilophosaurus. With a name meaning two-crested lizard, Dilophosaurus lived during the early Jurassic period, around 201.3 to 182.7 million years ago. Before I continue, Jurassic Park straight up lied to us about this dinosaur on 3 different levels. First of all, it wasn't that small. Upon further research, I found that Dilophosaurus was around 6 feet tall. Yeah, that's around the same height as me. The second lie was that, as of now, there's no evidence saying that Dilophosaurus had a frill. Apparently, this was just an artistic liberty for the movie, but it's still a cool look. And the last lie was an interesting idea, though completely non-existent for any prehistoric or living animals. And that's the introduction of a venomous spit. This kind of thing can be done through teeth, but nothing can just have venom as its spit. However, there's nothing from the fossils that we have right now that would tell us if these were true or not. However, Michael Crichton, the author of the Jurassic Park book, did this to show that the merging of dinosaur and reptile DNA could have unpredictable dangers, using the venom spit to illustrate his point. But a few more interesting things is that this guy was one of the biggest predators in the early Jurassic, and this kind of trait was later taken over by Allosaurus and T-Rex. Now, as the name suggests, Dilophosaurus had a unique crest on the top of its head that may have looked very different than the fossils, though paleontologists still aren't entirely sure what they were used for. The most popular theory, though, was that it was used for mating or identifying other Dilophosaurus, but they don't seem to be strong enough to be used in combat. Just about everything about this dinosaur is interesting to learn about, and I keep finding fun facts about them, so I'll share just one more. And that fact was learning that there doesn't seem to be much differences between the fossils of male and females, so it's hard for us to even understand what the differences were like for their behavioral patterns even. Number 6. Allosaurus. Picture yourself in the late Jurassic, around 152 to 145 million years ago. You watch a wonderful group of herbivores grazing along a field. Suddenly, one of the herbivores lifts its head quickly and begins screaming and running. Then, you see a gigantic bipedal monster around the same size as a T-Rex, but with brown horns on the top of its head running right at you. This monster, running around 21 miles per hour, is Allosaurus, one of the main apex predators in the Jurassic period. With a name that translates to other lizard, this creature was one of the earliest dinosaurs ever discovered, and it has the largest number of fossils found. As stated before, these dinosaurs were carnivores, and, out of all their prey, they apparently loved eating Stegosaurus more than anything else. It was also quite a smart dinosaur, as being an apex predator doesn't mean much if you can't back it up. This was an ambush monster, waiting in the shadows to bide its time and attack its prey at the right moment. But, just because it's the apex predator of its time doesn't mean that it was the biggest carnivore of the late Jurassic. However, you may be wondering what it was like to see it attack, and this is quite interesting. While the bite force of this hunter was weaker than a lion's, scientists theorized that it used its upper jaw in an axe-like motion to strike, using its serrated teeth to dig into and tear up the flesh when it was attacking, causing its prey to go into shock and die of exhaustion. Tell me you aren't more intimidated by this thing now. 'Cause I sure was. Number 5. Iguanodon. Living during the early Cretaceous around 140 to 110 million years ago, and with a name that means iguana tooth, Iguanodon is quite a unique looking dinosaur. If I'm being honest with you guys, I didn't even know this guy existed until first grade, when I was assigned to make a short report about this dinosaur. And the more I learned, the more interested I became. Like many other ornithopods, it could travel as both bipedal and quadrupedal, meaning it could travel on 2 or 4 feet. Iguanodons could also grow up to 10 meters long, almost 9 feet tall, and weigh nearly 4,000 kilograms. They were herbivores and were very fond of low-growing ferns, possibly with the use of a long tongue, according to the muscles inside of its head. However, they also had a very unusual look, with 3 closely placed fingers, an elongated and dexterous little finger, and spikes for thumbs. So yeah, let's talk about its thumb bone. Now, this thing is very interesting, and scientists are still unsure about what exactly they were used for. The most popular theories are that it was used either to fend off predators or to forage for food. I should also note that early restorations incorrectly had the thumb spike on the nose. Boy, that would have been actually interesting, never mind. Iguanodons also had very powerful leg muscles, but it's unlikely that it was fast or agile. I should also mention that the discovery of Iguanodon was from uncovering its tooth, hence the name, where scientists thought it was an ancient iguana, before realizing it was a dinosaur later on. Number 4. Argentinosaurus. Being among the last dinosaurs to exist, Argentinosaurus lived around 99.6 million years ago to the end of the late Cretaceous, 66 million years ago. Now, this is one of the largest dinosaurs in history, though the biggest has been between this, Patagotitan, Alamosaurus, Puertosaurus, Brahthcaosaurus, and Marapunisaurus. Okay, there is no way those last 2 are the actual names for dinosaurs. With a name that translates to Argentina lizard, big shock there, this dinosaur grew up to 35 meters in length. That is 98 feet long. And it weighed up to 70,000 kilograms, which is over 150,000 pounds. Not to mention, their legs were around 15 feet long, and their body, not counting the neck or tail, was 23 feet long. However, because of their gigantic size and their species type being sauropods, they were very slow, only being able to travel around 5 miles per hour. But they also traveled in herds to get a better chance to protect themselves and the next generation from predators. Yeah, these were herbivores, eating a wide variety of delicious bushes and trees with their extremely long necks, needing to eat well over 1,200 pounds per day just to keep their body mass. That means a herd of these guys could destroy an entire forest within about a day before they moved on to the next area. Now, since I've talked about the diet and the facts about this dinosaur, I need to tell you guys about the funny story about its discovery. In 1987, a farmer in Argentina unearthed a fossil on his ranch. Doesn't sound too funny, but the guy thought it was a piece of petrified wood and called to have the item taken off his farm. When the team came by, they found the item weighed nearly 4 tons. It was later that a paleontology team was called in and figured out that this was a dinosaur bone. And so they came back to the site and began excavations, finding more bones. However, we currently don't have a complete skeleton of Argentinosaurus, mostly consisting of the back vertebrae and legs. But they got these dimensions for the creature from studying its bones and comparing it to other gigantic gigantic sauropod titans. One more thing I would like to mention is that the size of the eggs for this dinosaur were enormous, being nearly the same size as a beach ball, about 1 meter in length and almost 11 pounds heavy. Number 3. Deinonychus. Just to get this off the table now, what you're seeing here are Deinonychus, not Velociraptor. That's what Jurassic Park did. Both. Michael Crichton admitted he used the Velociraptor name because it sounded more dramatic. And I agree. With a name translating to Terrible Claw, what? Deinonychus lived during the early Cretaceous period, around 115 to 108 million years ago. These meat-eating dinosaurs were pretty massive, being as tall as an average human, or roughly around 6 feet tall. They could also grow up to 3.4 meters long and weigh about 100 kilograms. Though they are not velociraptors, Deinonychus is part of the Dromaeosaur family, which is filled with dinosaurs that would be described as raptors, which can also lead to the confusion. But it's also thanks to this family tie that scientists believe Deinonychus would have had feathers, as most other raptors did. The biggest point about these guys was their gigantic sickle-shaped talon on each foot, which is believed to have been used when pinning prey to the ground, or even climbing. It also wasn't built enough to use its talon as a slashing weapon, but it did have relatively short lower leg bones, which could have been useful to absorb impacts if using its talon as such. And while they aren't believed to have been speedy or agile as shown to us in movies and TV shows, they were definitely not as slow or as cumbersome as other dinosaurs. It was also thanks to their discovery that started what is referred to as the dinosaur renaissance, which brought lots of new interest to the world of dinosaur science and discoveries. And a special thanks would have to go to the paleontologists who discovered them, John Ostrom and Grant Mayer, in 1964. But remember, if someone in a conversation brings up anything about velociraptors from the Jurassic Park movies, you can be there to inform them about this confusion. And I know this is going to be a little unconventional for a top 10 list, but let's go over our honorable mentions now. My reason for this will be clear when we get to number 2. Ankylosaurus. Now these guys were the tanks of the Mesozoic era. They were practically covered head to tail in protective plating. Not to mention, they were equipped with a heavy club at the end of their tail. These guys are also very popular in many forms of pop culture. I think the most popular version was Bumpy from Camp Cretaceous, who was just so adorable as a baby. But I can't end this before mentioning this guy was in Power Rangers, though the appearance took quite a few liberties and artistic endeavors for the show. Carnotaurus. Now doesn't this guy look intimidating? Well, except for the arm nubs, which I thought was originally an animation mistake for these shows. Two popular theories about the horns were that they were either for attacking prey or for attracting mates. Either way, it makes this monster look like a devil. Now the one thing I have to tell you about this behemoth is that we actually don't have a full skeleton of it. To complete its look, scientists have had to look to other abelisaurs, the family this dinosaur comes from, to guesstimate what Carnotaurus really looked like. Stegosaurus. Its primary distinction is the plates on its back, which are kite-shaped and go from its neck to almost halfway down its tail. Not to mention, the end of its tail is also equipped with 4 spikes known as a thagomizer, which sounds kind of like the instrument that was used to create the Star Trek theme. With them being herbivores, they needed to defend themselves from their primary predator, the Allosaurus. When the carnivore would get close, Stegosaurus would wind up their tail and slam the spikes into the leg, side, or head of the enemy. And it's primarily based on its appearance that this giant was going to be on this list. Velociraptor. Now I can't go on without mentioning these guys, as velociraptors are known by pretty much everybody nowadays. But pop culture says they look very different from what fossils tell. They were covered in feathers, and these feathers were particularly bright colored. However, these feathers were only for display when attracting mates, akin to how some male birds are brightly colored. The other major fact about them is that they were very small, being only 1.6 feet tall on average, the same size as a medium-sized dog. However, with me talking about them so much during the Deinonychus section, I figured I had to mention them here. Styracosaurus. Now this guy is more here because it has such a cool head. The spikes on top of its neck frill with just one horn on the nose is such a memorable image. And being up to 18 feet long and almost 6,000 pounds heavy, this guy was basically the rhinoceros of the Cretaceous period. In appearance, at least. I love the look of it. I'm not joking. And being an herbivore always got it to be a cool dinosaur for me. Plus, it was the basis for the Mezzodon rover in Power Rangers Dino Thunder. That fact alone nearly got it onto this top 10. And now, on to our two final dinosaurs. Number 2. I can't even do this one justice, so here you go. Special thank you to Nostalgia Critic and the great Luke Ski for creating that song just so that this joke could work. Yeah, let's talk about the Tyrannosaurus Rex. With a name that translates to King of the Tyrannical Lizards. The first thing that I discovered upon even a little bit of research was that Tyrannosaurus is actually the name of the genus, or the level prior to species. And Tyrannosaurus Rex is the name of the species itself. So if you say Tyrannosaurus, you could be talking about the Rex or one of its close relatives. And one thing that everybody and their paleontological uncle have pointed out is that the T-Rex had among the best eyesight among dinosaurs. So, thank you for that, Jurassic Park. At 12 feet tall, 40 feet long, and up to 7,000 kilograms, these dinosaurs were average for the predators, but still very scary for today's standards. They were carnivores. Obviously. And had to eat up to 17 kilograms, or 40,000 calories per day. That is so much and so intriguing to research. And some of you may be wondering, well, how did the T-Rex eat its food? Well, they have 60 saw-edged and bone-crushing teeth, which look like daggers. They also didn't chew or grind their food when eating. Instead, they just swallowed their chunks whole. While that is a choking hazard, it's also time efficient. It has also been theorized that this gigantic predatory dinosaur was a family man, staying with its children during their formative years and training them how to hunt. I should also explain why this guy is the most famous dinosaur, being in just about every dinosaur show, movie, and game. And the reason is mostly because it was the first large carnivore discovered, and originally believed to be the largest ever. The other reason was that it was perhaps the fiercest carnivore in history. And I think most people know that Tyrannosaurus rex hunted in packs, but when growing to adulthood, their bodies would become leaner to maintain athletic performance rather than becoming more robust to endure such weight. But let's talk about something maybe not everyone knows about. Something that would be very shocking to learn. And that one thing that I found out was that Tyrannosaurus rex wasn't a runner or even a short sprinter. Instead, it was a brisk walker, only able to run around 15 to 25 miles per hour. Any faster and its legs would have been broken from the sheer speed. And it's been theorized that the king of the dinosaurs may have even traveled at a slower pace. But let's now move on to my number 1 pick. And my number 1 favorite dinosaur is Triceratops. Yeah, this one was a no-brainer for me to figure out. I loved the Triceratops, even when I was a kid. With its name literally translating to 3-horned face, Triceratops had a neck frill, measuring up to 3 meters long, which shows 2 outgrowing horns above each eye and an additional horn right above its nose. The head of a ceratopsian has always been referenced as the largest head of all land animals, taking up 1/3 of the entire body. However, Triceratops doesn't have the largest. There are actually a few other ceratopsians that have it beat for the largest neck frill. So go check that out if you're interested. And the horns would appear straight as an infant, curve backwards as a young adult, and curve back forward as full-grown adults, which I found to be very intriguing. They lived during the late Cretaceous period, inevitably being one of the last species of dinosaurs before the cataclysmic asteroid event that wiped them all out. They were herbivores and ate things like fruits, seeds, leaves, twigs, and roots. But just because we know them as being very calm during feeding time, it doesn't mean they were very docile. They were very durable and strong, willing to fight each other for mating purposes or to protect their territories. And when it came time to dealing with predators, there was nothing more terrifying than seeing a row of angry Triceratops staring you down. These guys grew to be 9 meters in length and weigh up to 26,000 pounds. They were first discovered in 1887 and originally believed to have been an extinct species of bison. Okay, I don't know what kind of bison the excavators were looking at, but whatever. And their diet required them to eat over 200 pounds of plants per day. While that's not as impressive as a sauropod, that's still a lot of food. It would take humans upwards of 70 years to even come close to eating what a Triceratops could in one day. Think about that. Triceratops ate more in one day than an average person would in almost 3/4 of their life. I should also mention that Triceratops had constant run-ins with Tyrannosaurus rex, as the two were in the same areas, and the former was always good prey for packs of T-Rex. Not to mention, the looks of the Triceratops Zords in the different Power Rangers seasons shows how popular they really are, and it's cool seeing them in these different designs. I'm a sucker for Triceratops, but my all-time favorite part about it was that it was the first dinosaur we saw on screen for the Jurassic Park movies, and it is so magical. The appearance, the skin texture, and the eyes themselves are all beautiful to look at. So much so that I personally felt that, as a kid, I wanted to have one as a pet, regardless of what the consequences would be. And that fact alone is why Triceratops is my number one favorite dinosaur. Also, forgive me, but I don't believe Triceratops could take a dump that big.
That is one big pile of shit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's from a sauropod, Ian.
Dino Charger, ready! Summon Triceratops!
Triceracharger, engage!
Are there any that I missed and you feel like should have been mentioned? Well, let me know down in the comments section about that. Thanks for watching, you guys. Leave a comment. Let me know if you want me to do other top 10 videos. Give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't, and ring that bell for notifications. I'll see you guys next time, but I want to end this with one more story between me and Dinosaurs, which goes all the way back to when I was a kid, about maybe... Ah!